Hello, everyone. Hello. I am going to be filming the level 5 TTC course lecture. So for those of you who might just be tuning in, I'm creating a playlist here on the channel for all of the TTC lectures to kind of be held in one place. That way, any of the students of Third Eye Fortunes have an easily accessible place to look at the lectures and listen, and if they miss a lecture they can hop on, or if they want to re-listen to a lecture the students can hop on. And also, if you're not currently enrolled as a student through Third Eye, you can also listen to these lectures. You won't get everything out of this video that goes on in class. This is just going to be a video of the lecture. So without further ado, sorry, I got a little notification on my phone. Hello. Without further ado, I'm going to hop right into this lecture here. And if you see me looking down, it's because I am reading off of my lecture notes. So to start with, this is the Tarot Training Course Level 5, where we talk about ethics, and we do some tarot sizes to prepare for the final exam, as well as some boot camp stuff, some tarot boot camp. So first, what is a tarot size? A tarot size is an activity to help you learn the aspects of tarot. It's an exercise themed around tarot, so it's a tarot size. And second, this is our other objective for class, to talk about ethics in tarot. What are ethics in tarot? The American Tarot Association defines ethical tarot readers as people who help others better hear their own inner guides. They empower clients to think through their options and come to decisions on their own. They encourage clients to seek licensed professional help of doctors, counselors, accountants, and lawyers, especially in cases where the client's concern goes beyond the expertise of the reader. They do not use the cards to identify curses or bad energy and then charge a fee to remove those curses and bad energy. Now, the American Tarot Association is a professional and social organization for tarot enthusiasts, students, scholars, and tarot professionals. They promote the study of appreciation of tarot by supporting a variety of educational programs and breaking stigma. Hello, Nikki. Thanks for joining. They promote the study of appreciation of tarot by supporting a variety of educational programs, as well as breaking the stigma around tarot. So this is a legitimate organization. It's the American Tarot Association, and they have their own opinions and their own guidelines about regulations that should be followed as a professional tarot reader in the US. So highly, highly encourage everyone to check that out. Getting down here into the next part of this lecture, ethics in tarot. So let's get into this lecture part of this lesson. Ethics are a moral principle or a behavior of conducting an activity. That's how Webster's dictionary defines ethics. Now, sadly, there are a handful of people and organizations that do prey on unsuspecting individuals who are simply searching for help and guidance. People and organizations that say they know when you're going to die, or how you can win the lottery, or will remove some evil curse if you only hand over $200, is very suspect, you guys. Very, very suspect. What's also really sad is that these scammers damage the reputations of the many professional and ethical tarot readers out there who are well-meaning individuals who really truly want to make a difference in people's lives. So how can we make sure that as a professional tarot reader, we are being ethical? How can we make sure that we are following these guidelines that are set up by the American Tarot Association? Because that does exist and these regulations do exist. However, tarot is not necessarily, it's more, in the eyes of our government, it's recognized more as a performance art and not necessarily a therapeutic service. So there are different regulations. However, these are standard ethics that the association has put out for all of us to kind of use as a source and a guideline. So the first on that list, okay, as far as what the American Tarot Association views as our ethics that anyone who's reading professionally should be following. Okay. Number 1, cares for the well-being of the client. This is big. This is not about how big and how bad and how cool and how special and how psychic the reader is. This is about being of service. When you are a professional tarot reader, you are of service to your querent, to your community, and to your fellow tarot community. This is an act of service. This is not a position of power. This is not a way to flex, you know, your like ego and show people how cool and how different you are. This is a way to be of service. And anytime you are reading, you should always be coming from a heart-centered place, okay? Secondly, this is the second ethic, has a clear personal boundary, okay? And for each reader, this may be different, but there needs to be some sort of boundaries established of what you do and don't feel comfortable with when it comes to tarot. Example, what topics will and won't be answered, okay? If someone comes to you with a health concern and wants to get a reading about it, or if someone comes to you with a third-party reading, where do you draw your ethics and your standards? Now, I am not here to tell you what your ethics have to be. That is not my job. I am here, though, to be an educator and to enlighten anyone who may not know that there is kind of a protocol and a standard ethics that have been established by the American Tarot Association. And as a professional reader, I personally adhere to those guidelines, and I encourage other readers to also, you know, follow in that guideline. So for 3, has structures in place to ensure ethics are a core part of their service, aka a code of ethics or a confidentiality statement. So this is a 2-parter. For 1, we're talking about confidentiality here. So whatever goes on between you and a querent in a reading should stay right there in that space. As a professional tarot reader, you should not go around to Mary, Sue, and Beth talking about the reading that you had and talking about their business that came up in the cards and having a kiki at their expense. That's not okay, guys. And also having an established code of ethics. If you're a professional tarot reader and you have a website, you should probably have, you know, a list on there of what you will and won't do, right? Kind of setting those boundaries. So let's stick to our expertise here. This is the next part of the ethics lecture. Chances are you're probably not a medical specialist or someone who works in a legal field or a financial advisor, though you totally may be, okay? However, if you are not, please do not give medical, legal, or financial advice. Pretty cut and dry. You are an amazing tarot reader, so let's stick to reading the tarot cards. If the tarot reading is medical, legal, or financial in nature, you know, then you can refer the client to an appropriate professional who deals in those aspects. In fact, in some countries and in some states here in the US, it is actually illegal. It is against the law to provide medical, financial, or legal advice when you are not suitably qualified to do so. So save yourself an expensive court case and don't even go there, okay? Yes, there are loopholes. Yes, there may be certain things you do and don't feel comfortable with. You know, talking about finances, talking about health, mind, body, spirit health, and talking about legal matters is one thing, right? But making claims or giving advice as a professional tarot reader, giving someone legal advice, if you are not a lawyer, is very unethical. According to the United American Tarot Association, and also my personal opinion as well, aligns with this. So, however, if you are a medical, legal, or financial professional and you happen to also be a tarot reader, wonderful. You know, this does not apply to you in that aspect. This would not apply to you because you are a professional, right? So that would not be breaking a code of ethics because that coincides with who and what you are and what you do. However, maintain strict client confidentiality. I can't express this enough. I touched on this a little bit earlier. As a tarot reader, you receive some very sensitive and highly private information, okay, that your clients are going to share with you on the assumption of strict confidentiality, point blank, period. It is essential that as an ethical tarot reader, you treat their information with the respect it deserves. This means never sharing any detail of a client's reading without their express permission, not to your partner, friends, or family, not Barry, Beth, or Sue either, okay, and not to your client's partner, friends, or family. That's another thing. Store the client information securely And also use the client information only for the purpose of the tarot reading unless other permission has been provided. So unless someone is trying to hurt themselves or someone else, you'd never break that confidentiality. That confidentiality stays right there. Privacy disclaimer. There are some exceptions to client confidentiality, however, like I just talked about. This includes situations where clients intend to harm themselves or others, where the client has committed a significant crime such as murder or rape. Under these circumstances, you are obliged to report them to the relevant authorities by law, okay? I hope, though, you're never placed in those situations. Be honest and tell the truth, but keep honey on those words, baby. Tell your client what you see in the tarot cards. Don't hide negative messages or disappointing news. Be open and be honest with the messages that you receive. That's why they're coming to see you. But also be careful of the telling it like it is mentality. You know, treat the client, like I said, come from a heart space and treat your client with compassion and sensitivity and respect. Being brutally honest with no care for the client's feelings can be just as unethical as holding back information or sugarcoating a tarot reading. Ensure that your client leaves the tarot reading with a clear picture of the current state of events and a path forward to achieve the outcome that they truly desire, guys. Empowerment here is key. That is the key. And leave your judgments and opinions at the door. As an ethical tarot reader, it is important to remain as impartial and non-judgmental as possible. Your client is trusting you with their personal information, and whether or not you agree with what they are doing, you need to offer impartial advice and guidance if you are going to be reading professionally. And let's not be shady either. Don't provide a tarot reading with the requirement to buy a shady add-on product such as a spell to clear negative energy, or giving you a large sum of money so that way you can remove a curse placed on them. Sadly, there are still psychic scammers out there who scare or coerce individuals into making more and more purchases of what are eventually questionable products and services, right? Of course, if you're a talented witch or spellcrafter, work your magic, baby. But do it in a way that is professional and do it in a way that is ethical, okay? You should not, as a tarot reader, one of your objectives should be to hold space for someone and come from a compassionate space. And you should not give off the vibe of being a used car salesman, and you should not be someone who's trying to upsell someone something when they come get a tarot reading, because that's going to create a bad impression of you and of our entire industry. So don't tell your client what to do. Sometimes a client will come to you wanting to provide specific answers. Should I quit my job? Should I leave my husband? What career path should I take? Should I try to have more kids? This can put you in a difficult position. On one hand, you want to provide a specific answer to their specific question. But on the other hand, you don't want to take away their free will and their personal power to choose. The last thing you want to do is for your client to come back to you months or years later saying, I did what you told me and it backfired and it failed miserably. That's the last thing that you want. Your role is not to tell your client what to do, but how to coach them, to counsel them, and to guide them. Remind your client they will always maintain free will and the responsibility of choosing their own path, because it is not your job to choose their path. That's their job. It is your job to help talk them and walk them through the various opportunities and paths that lie ahead of them and behind them of their previous paths that they've taken. So here are some things to consider when we're talking about ethical tarot reading. Number one, reading for minors. This would mean that giving a service to anyone who is under the age of 18 who legally cannot consent to that service. So you would have to have their parental guardian consent. Reading for third parties. This would mean that if Jane comes to me for a reading about this girl at her work, that girl at her work is not there to get that reading. She cannot consent. If Joe comes to me to get a reading about his wife, who he thinks may be having an affair, his wife is not there. So she cannot really consent to that. So that's a third party reading. What topics, are you going to not read? Like I said, minors, third parties, health concerns, legal matters, financial matters, health matters. I'm not telling you where you have to draw that line, and I'm not telling you that you can't do this a case-by-case basis and that you can't use your own judgment, because like I said, as an educator, it's not my job to define and establish your code of ethics. That's for you to do. I'm just the educator here. How will you treat your clients, and what will you do with client information? Okay? Now remember, the key here to being a good reader is acknowledging the fact that the client has their free will, empowering them, empowering the querent, empowering the client with their free will. So that is the primary lecture for level 5. We have some tarot sizes planned for class, as well as some group discussion that will not be filmed here on the lecture video. So I hope all of you are doing well, and I will be filming the last and final lecture here